This ghost literally frightened a man to death. But could it be the most terrifying spectre ever to haunt the Tower of London? As you might expect of one of London's most famous and bloodiest historic buildings, the Tower of London has built up a formidable reputation over its 1,000-year history as one of the UK's most haunted places. However, what you might not know is that the unquiet apparitions at this ancient London landmark apparently not only include human visitations, such as long-dead monarchs, aristocrats and criminals, but also spirits from the animal kingdom too, from energetic terriers to large brown bears. This bizarre account comes from the memoir of Edmund Lenthal Swifte, who was the keeper of the crown jewels during the first half of the 19th century. One of the night sentries at the jewel house, a man who was in perfect health and spirits and was singing and whistling up to the moment of the occurrence, was alarmed by a figure like a huge bear issuing from under the jewel room door. He thrust at it with his bayonet, which stuck in the door. He dropped in a fit and was carried senseless to the guardroom. When on the morrow I saw the unfortunate soldier in the main guardroom, his fellow sentinel was also there, and testified to having seen him at his post just before the alarm, awake and alert, and had even spoken to him. I saw the unfortunate man again on the following day, but changed beyond my recognition. In another day or two, the brave and steady soldier who would have mounted a breach or led a forlorn hope with unshaken nerves, died at the presence of a shadow. So here was a brave and burly guard, a guard of the Tower of London no less, previously in seemingly perfect health, who lost his life through fright at seeing the ghost of a huge brown bear. The idea of a ghost bear haunting the Tower of London is not as random as it might sound. Even in the 19th century, the building had a long history with keeping bears. In 1252, a polar bear was gifted to King Henry III by King Haakon of Norway. It became part of the royal menagerie and was allowed to catch its own food by swimming in the Thames on a long leash. James I kept a series of bears at the Tower, forcing them to fight other animals in the name of sport. But most significantly, during the time this ghost story supposedly occurred in 1814, there was actually a resident grizzly bear living at the Tower. He was called Old Martin and was given to King George III in 1811 by the Hudson's Bay Company, a fur trading business. George apparently wasn't too impressed by his present at the time, complaining that he would have far preferred a new tie or a pair of socks instead. You can see his point. A description of Old Martin from the 19th century goes as follows. His size is far superior to that of any other bear that has ever been seen in this quarter of the globe, and his ferocity, in spite of the length of time during which he has been a prisoner, and of all the attempts that have been made to conciliate him, still continues undiminished. Old Martin remained at the Tower until the Royal Menagerie was closed, around 1832. He was then moved to the newly opened London Zoo in Regent's Park, where he died in 1838. So, what could possibly explain Swifte's account of a ghost bear? Why did a fit, healthy guardsman say he saw the ghost of a bear and then die? Well, it could be that there are several possible explanations. Explanation number one. The story was propaganda. Intriguingly, the story of the Tower's ghost bear became very popular during the time of the Crimean War, when the armies of the Ottoman Empire and their allies of Britain, France and Sardinia were at war with the Russian Empire. What was the symbol of the Russian Empire? The Russian bear, and this dates back to at least the 16th century. In fact, during the Crimean War itself, the Russian bear was widely caricatured by the contemporary Allied press. A country in desperate need of the protection of its brave soldiers against a rampaging metaphorical bear was at the forefront of public consciousness during this period. Was this story, therefore, simply an intriguing piece of propaganda, specifically designed to capture a mid-19th century public's imagination and provide a welcome morale boost during wartime? It's possible, but considering the brave soldier died of fright after his encounter with the bear, was it really the most effective story to reassure the public that Britain was indeed well protected? Explanation number 2. The story was exaggerated. Edmund Lenthal Swifte's memoir is, to date, our only source of the story of the Tower of London's ghostly bear. It begins in Swifte's writing straight after his extraordinary account of a ghostly floating cylinder, also spotted in the Tower of London. Swifte was 83 at the time of writing it, and was a man who seemed to delight in supernatural stories veering towards the downright peculiar. He could therefore be simply embellishing or misremembering the story of the ghost bear, or taking the true events of a sudden death of a guard and weaving an incredible ghost story around it. Explanation number 3. The ghost was real. Real in the sense that the guard could actually have encountered a real bear that fateful night, old Martin himself. Suppose one of the tower's guards had been less meticulous than usual and forgotten to close, lock or bolt the door, allowing old Martin to escape from his quarters. In that case, the unlucky sentry might have actually seen a real bear emerge from the tower that night, frantically lunging his bayonet at the creature, only for it to miss and become embedded in the door. This guardsman could have indeed seemed to be in fine physical and mental fettle on the evening he saw the ghost bear, but the shock of encountering a real animal of old Martin's superior size and undiminished ferocity could well have triggered extreme shock, leading to death from a handful of now well understood medical conditions. These include the massive surge of adrenaline to the heart, causing severe or irregular, potentially fatal contractions, muscle weakness, known as stress cardiomyopathy, or inaction. Although we learn from Swifte's memoir that the guard was in perfect health, it's impossible to know whether this was actually the case, or whether the sentry had a symptomless underlying condition which led to his irreversible physical decline following the experience. Whatever the explanation, the tale of the Tower of London's ghost bear is a fantastic example of tower legend combining with contemporary politics and mundane plausibility to create one memorable and very frightening ghost story. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Historics. There'll be more coming soon, but in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe and share. See you next time!